This podcast episode is brought to you by restarting. Like a bad relationship, sometimes you gotta restart it, just like this podcast. Welcome to the very first episode of the Arrogant Metalhead Podcast, Rebooted Edition. I was unhappy with it before, but now I'm on the quest to make it good again. We'll make podcasts great again. My name is Dirk, and here I have a very special person with me. I decided that bringing in a second person to the podcast enhances it. Sometimes my voice is not nearly enough. Sometimes you need to hear the perspective of another person. Sometimes I need someone to yell at. Sometimes I need someone to yell at me. So, I want to welcome to this podcast my very good friend of a good handful amount of years.
A lot of years.
Raven. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. So, you've been wanting to do this for quite a while, right?
Yes, actually. I'm a really huge YouTube nerd. I watch a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of videos. I like pretty much all forms of media. You know, I'm involved in a lot of things in my life. So, and you know, I'm long-winded, and I'm a loudmouth, so I like talking about stuff.
So, can you name off any podcasts that you've listened to before that really stuck out to you?
I'm a really big fan of Rooster Teeth's podcast and Good Mythical Morning. I was an avid listener of that for, a good almost a year of my life, so listen to that almost every morning. I'm a big fan of Markiplier on YouTube. I love that stuff. I love gaming videos. Lesser known YouTubers, Backyard Bowyer, a few other really obscure blacksmith dudes, that are just in the gritty underbelly of YouTube. They don't get a lot of, recognition. So
okay. So with this podcast, the idea with it was to talk about things that are related to metal, but also gaming, comics, whatever is metal. In terms of Metalocalypse and Deathclock, you make your decisions based off of which decision is the most metal. And I think that's helped me become as successful as I am right now.
I think that should be a campaign slogan.
It should be a campaign slogan.
What is most metal? When you stop what you're doing right now and think about what is the most metal thing that I can do right now.
Right. So if you're dating someone and let's say you're at the second date, you've got to stop and ask yourself, what's the most metal thing you can do with this person before you say yes to being a thing with him or her. I think that's important.
That is very important. I mean, if I would have done that, but you know what? Honestly, if I would have done that, I probably wouldn't be getting married right now, because we went to a movie on our first date, and if I tried to crowd surf at the movie, I don't think I'd be getting married right now.
Now, Raven, you yourself are actually pretty fucking metal. So you have some badass tattoos. You have a D&D shirt on right now.
Yeah, I do.
And I also have watched you do LARPing.
Yes, it's kind of I'm into all things Viking and medieval. So, if you think about some of the most metal people in history, you look at the Mongols and you look at the Vikings. And They have a lot of parallels, and those are my two favorite medieval things, as Vikings and Mongols. So you really can't get much more metal than that. And I like to think of myself as a modern Viking, So
what got you interested into that?
Well, being, of Northern European heritage, that pretty much means that somewhere along your lines you have Vikings in your DNA. That's literally your ancestors. My ancestors are trying to claw their way out of me. It's the way I think of it. And so I like to live my life in a way that my ancestors would be proud.
So let me ask then. I am Irish, German, Swiss, Italian, hint of English. Do any of those go into the Viking eras? Are any of those related to Vikings?
Everywhere in Europe and even good chunks of Asia all have, Scandinavian, fingerprints. They found, Islamic coins in Viking hordes. They traded beads in Egypt. It's crazy. It's so crazy. I saw a picture on the internet a while ago of a cartoon where they found a Viking longship on the moon, and they're like, "Damn, those Vikings! They made it to the moon before us." So I mean, that's I just like to live. I like to think that somewhere along the line that I'm related to those people. So
yeah. So what is some of the music that you listen to?
I love metal. Viking metal, sludge metal, stoner metal. What else? Doom metal, death metal, everything.
Now, didn't you meet Amon Amarth a long time ago?
I actually did.
Yes.
I'll actually post a picture on your website just so people can get to know me. I met them at Zombie Burger in Des Moines, and there's a story behind that. We show up to Des Moines downtown about an hour early for the show. So we're like, well, what are we gonna do? So we go to Zombie. We're like, we're gonna go to Zombie Burger and eat because we haven't eaten yet. So we go into the sit down section, and it tells us it's gonna be like a 45-minute wait, and we're like, there's just no way we can do that because we got to be in the show in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So we're standing there and trying to decide, and we're like, no, we'll just go through the line. So we're about halfway through the line, and then I'm standing there looking and trying to figure out what I want, and I hear some people speaking. I think it was Swedish. I'm not sure. I think they're from Sweden. I heard some people speaking Swedish behind us in a very deep, like, scary voice. And so I turn around because I'm like thinking that these guys are, here to see the show. We're going to talk to them and be really cool. And I turn around, and I'm a fairly large man, but I turned into a little schoolgirl. I turned around and all the color drained from my face because staring me in the face was this gigantic bearded man by the name of Johan Hegg. Standing there looking at me dead in the eyes, and I turn around to a few of my friends and say, there's literally Amon Amarth is standing behind us. And so we all just absolutely geeked out. Got pictures, talked to them. So that was probably the single coolest moment of my life, meeting my favorite band in a hole-in-the-wall burger joint in downtown Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah. So I would say, I would definitely say that my favorite band has been Fear Factory for a long time. Got into them way back when I was in high school. And back in 2010, I found out that for the release of Mechanized, the album back then, they were going to do a tour, and they coming to Des Moines. So I figured, fuck it, chums, let's go. And we go to Des Moines, and there's the People's Court, which is a venue that I sincerely miss. I've gone to so many concerts in that venue. I've met so many bands from going there too. Most of my favorite shows were there. So it was Fear Factory, Soulfly, Morbid Angel, Twisted, all those guys.
That would be a badass show.
All those guys I've met there in just different occasions. So I was hoping I'd be able to meet Burton at some point. And so there's a staircase that you go up, and that leads to the doors. And we're pretty much first at the doors, and we're hearing a couple of guys coming up. And so when you think of Fear Factory, it's like man versus machine, industrial metal kind of a theme. And here I see this guy in flip-flops, shorts, white t-shirt, bandana. I get a good look at him. I go, Burton? And he turns around. I get to say hi to him for a couple minutes and shook his hand. And so I'm freaking out. So I go downstairs and outside to go call someone and talk to him about what just happened. And while I'm on the phone, Burton comes out again. And the phone's still ringing. I'm like, do I get off the phone and talk to him some more? What do I do? So what he does is, while I have the phone stuck to my face, he walks to me, looks at me dead in the eyes, flicks me in the stomach, and walks away.
That's pretty badass.
It was pretty badass. And then I got to meet him again with the rest of the band, with Dino, back in August last year. And Bert and I were both able to gush about the new Daredevil Netflix series, which it's fucking amazing. I love that Daredevil series.
I have to say, hands down, my favorite comic book, adaptation. It's just, oh man. I could go on forever about that. I'll let you finish the story.
Dude, that was pretty much it for the story. He did recommend that I watch Dredd, because back then I haven't watched it yet. But I did, finally. And that movie is perfect.
I have a theory about Dredd.
What?
I think it's a prequel. I think it could be a prequel, because it shows. Oh man,
is this like before he goes Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah. I'll put on my tinfoily hat.
I am the law.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, I'm so glad I watched that movie because it's just 90 minutes of no bullshit, ass kicking. You're Dredd. You go in this building that everyone lives in and go kill the drug lords. That's it. And you're training this person to be a judge while you're at it. So you get to watch like her little bit of background. Like there was no background needed, so they didn't even fuck with it.
I feel the best action movies leave you questioning, like, how did he get to this point? What we don't know, and so that leaves a lot of open for prequels. It leaves a lot of open for expanding on the world in another way, to bring it in, to bring it together. So I kind of like that.
And the great thing is that Judge Dredd never takes off his helmet because he never does it in the comics because it was never needed.
You know what? I never even thought about that. He never takes his helmet off.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about a bad comic book movie that's coming out here. Let's talk about Suicide Squad.
I'm just not a big DC guy, but I'll probably see it. I'm a huge Marvel guy, I guess. And even I was disappointed with Civil War and, even the second Avengers. The Winter Soldier, it was the pinnacle right here.
I loved it.
It was the absolute pinnacle. And then you have Civil War that came out, and it just left you, this Civil War is supposed to be this huge thing that encompasses thousands of, people who have special abilities, and they broke it down to, 7 or 8?
Yeah.
It just felt so lackluster and so forced. Everything was so forced, and I just...
It felt like too much of a good thing all at the same time. If we're still talking about Civil War.
Yes. And then they forced Spider-Man on us. How did... they didn't figure out... no one figured out how Tony Stark knew it was Peter Parker and any of the things. That just left me I'm like, wait a second. Why not, I don't think they should have added Spider-Man to it. Spider-Man should have been this thing that was in the movie that they could introduce later, that they didn't need to force him on us. Literally, they crammed Spider-Man down our throat.
So did you read the Civil War books?
I have not yet.
Okay.
I've done a lot of research because, I need to be knowledgeable about things. So
okay, so there's a huge reason why Spider-Man is incredibly important in the Civil War book. And I'm about to spoil just a smidge for you. But
wait, we have spoiler.
Yeah,
we don't spoiler.
Yeah. Spider-Man does reveal that he's Peter Parker to the public, in support of Tony Stark's side, saying that people should register if you want to be a hero. And if they were able to do something like that in Civil War, because think about it, nobody needs another Spider-Man origin. Everybody knows that he's Peter Parker.
How many is this going to make? 5? We've had Tobey Maguire. We've had... Well, there was 5 Tobey Maguire movies.
There was 3.
Was there 3? It seems like there was...
Yes. The third one is the one that everyone hated. Even Sam Raimi didn't want to do it.
And then they had 2 from the other guy.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield.
I liked Andrew Garfield.
I liked the first one. The first, Ultimate Spider-Man, awesome. They really made Peter Parker who he was supposed to be. And then they did the second movie, and I have not seen that movie because I just don't really... I'm not a big Spider-Man fan, honestly.
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. I
feel like, didn't they just try to add way too many villains?
Yes. So they did Electro, Green Goblin, and the Rhino, but the Rhino was completely minimalistic. You never actually see...
That was... who played him?
Oh, I forgot his name.
Man. Someone really weird. And where's Spider-Man? Or where's Daredevil? Daredevil is so tight-knit with Spider-Man, they almost have to add Daredevil, in with the new Spider-Man because they're literally in the same area.
Yeah.
It's like Hell's Kitchen, and then where's Peter Parker from?
We got to get Ben Affleck back again as Daredevil in the films.
And people are going to... I'll probably get so much hate for this. I did not mind Ben Affleck as Daredevil.
I don't either.
Okay, good.
Okay, I have a love-hate relationship with Ben Affleck. I think Ben Affleck himself is like, he's a bit of a douche. He's full of shit. He's wrong on a lot of things.
How was he in Batman vs. Superman, though?
He was great.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That's what I'm saying, like love-hate relationship. So it's like, when he was announced to be Batman, I was afraid of it.
I almost cried.
Yeah.
I almost cried. I was like, there's no way. But I from everything I've heard, I haven't seen it yet because I'm a bad comic book fan. But like I said, I'm just not a big DC guy, and I haven't seen it yet.
I forgot that I was watching Ben Affleck.
That's actually really cool.
And I'm sincerely saying this too. Like, Ben plays a really good older Bruce Wayne, and like an older Bruce Wayne who's tormented by the death of Jason Todd, who wanted to quit for a long time, but. Yeah, like Batman vs. Superman is a movie that I was able to enjoy, but I understand its flaws and I understand why people don't like it either. So now with getting into Suicide Squad, I think DC and Warner Brothers have made some horrible decisions from the get-go about this film. Like Will Smith. Will Smith as Deadshot specifically.
I feel like Will Smith will act the shit out of that movie, though. He might. I feel like he will be the best character in that movie. That's just me because I love Will Smith. I love everything about Will Smith. I was sad when he wasn't going to be the new Independence Day.
Well, the complaint is that he's being the Fresh Prince as Deadshot.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah.
Is Deadshot a really serious character?
Yes, absolutely.
But Will Smith can play a really serious character.
He can.
So we'll have to see.
He can, but apparently he didn't.
Oh, I heard that they rewrote it to add more jokes after Deadpool.
Oh,
I heard it went into a bunch of rewrites after Deadpool, the success of Deadpool, and how like full of jokes it was. They went in and did a bunch of rewrites and added a bunch of stuff to it.
Okay, so what I heard was that they tried being more lighthearted with Suicide Squad after getting some backlash about Batman versus Superman.
Oh, okay.
So and I think people recognize the problem was not Batman versus Superman being too dark or anything like that. It's just there was a lot that didn't make sense, and there was too much thrown into it at the same time.
Yeah, they couldn't really. You can't really complain about Batman vs. Superman being too dark. The Christopher Nolan movies were very dark.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of this is actually deeply inspired by The Dark Knight Returns, which is one of the darkest Batman books you can get into. Where like you're getting into Bruce Wayne's head while he's thinking about how I should have killed you the whole time, Joker. Every death that you've committed is my fault.
And isn't Suicide Squad is considerably after because Harley Quinn wasn't even around until the Batman animated series.
Yes.
So Suicide Squad is a fairly new addition to the Batman timeline.
There was a Suicide Squad before the 1990s. It just didn't have Harley Quinn. It just had a different cast of characters in it. So yeah, and then recently they started doing Suicide Squad with Harley and the characters that you know now. I guess maybe it just wasn't that successful back in the day.
I mean, people. I guess people love Harley Quinn a lot.
Yes,
I love the Batman animated series, but I don't remember her being in it all that much.
Well. Yeah, I mean, it was. You're not going to see Harley unless it's a Joker episode.
Very true. I guess.
Yeah,
and Joker's a main center point. I saw the previews that actually they're going to have Batman in it.
Yes.
Who's going to play Batman?
It's Ben Affleck.
Wait, what? It's really going to? Is it tying in?
Squad? Yeah.
Is it tying into the? Are they making a cinematic universe like Marvel did?
Yes.
Interesting. Well, I know they're doing that with a Justice League, but I didn't know it was going to be Ben Affleck Batman.
Justice League looks good. I think it looks very good.
I can't.
It can suck.
I just can't follow the Justice League.
I think it could suck, but I am hopeful for it. But yes, the Ben Affleck, the Batfleck is supposed to make an appearance in Suicide Squad. It's very brief though, and also Affleck is working with Scott Snyder, one of the current comic writers, on making a standalone Batman film.
Very nice. I would probably see it. I'll probably see Suicide Squad before I see Batman vs. Superman because I just I can't relate to Superman. He is this ultimate being with superpowers, and I need my comic book characters to be at least a little relatable.
That's the biggest complaint I hear about Superman. What I usually counter with this is that Superman is definitely hard to write about and make it good.
It's hard to make, like when you're playing a video game and you're just this ultimate powerful, character, and nothing is really a challenge for you. So the game has to make, really, really try and break its own rules to, present you a challenge. I kind of feel like that's what they did with, Superman. And the problem with every DC hero, I think, is they'll have some stupid weakness. What is it? Martian Manhunter is fire. Superman is, kryptonite.
Batman is, remembering that he had parents.
Yep. And then the Green Lantern is the color yellow or something like that.
Yeah, well, more like the color yellow just negates him from his power. He can't use it towards things that are yellow. And actually, there is a book called All-Star Batman and Robin, also written by Miller, which most of the comic readers hated it, but I loved it. Batman and Robin decide, okay, we have to meet up with the Green Lantern. He is after us, so we need to protect ourselves. So we're going to invite him to this house, and in this house, everything is painted yellow.
Nice.
And we will serve him drinks, but it's going to be lemonade.
And you look at, what's Thor's weakness? Nothing. What is the Hulk's weakness? Nothing. They have to send Hulk away. They can't reason with the Hulk. They put him on a spaceship and send him away because there's nothing they can do about it. He's the fucking Hulk. We just got to put him on a spaceship and send him away. And Thor comes and goes. So you look at these ultra powerful people that have absolutely no weakness.
Right. But if you put them in stories that challenge their motives and challenge their ethics, that's when it gets great.
It does. Where was Thor in Civil War? He could have put it all down. Who's going to fight Thor?
Yeah.
He's going to come down and be like, no, this is not happening. And he does that, I think, in the comic, doesn't he?
So everything in Civil War could have been prevented if Thor just came down and said, no, stop it.
No, stop. And what are you going to do? Are you going to, what are you going to do to, and basically, for all intents and purposes, he is a deity, because he really, that's the idea, is that magic and science are one and the same. So he really, is a deity, so he's so powerful that what are you going to do to him? You don't have the Hulk to fight him. Hulk's, MIA in the movie.
Swear to God. I muted this computer, but it still rings if I get a phone call. So it is kind of nice that my laptop and my phone are synchronized together to take phone calls and messages, but at the same time, if you're recording something...
Dat Mac, though.
It's a pain in the ass. I do think my next computer is going to be running Linux instead.
I don't like Linux because I still like my GUI, man. I got to have a GUI, and the GUI for Linux just... And also, I'm a huge video game nerd, and you can only get... I don't want to run Wine and all that garbage. I just want to, open my Steam up, click on something, and play.
That's why I have my Windows desktop just right over there. So do you have any predictions on what you're going to see in Suicide Squad? What's going to happen in the story? What your thoughts would possibly be?
I think sex sells, so they're going to focus way too much on the two women, and the movie is probably going to suck. Now, Margot Robbie is absolutely stunning.
Yes.
But can she carry the movie? Because that's what everyone is going to... That's what they expect her to do. Can she carry the movie?
Yes.
Is she a good enough character with enough depth without forcing it to carry a 2-hour movie?
Is Gwen Stefani going to win us over?
That's literally what we're dealing with.
This is what she looks like, though.
Yes,
she doesn't even look like a Harlequin anymore. That's all I want in the costume design. I think
not enough skin, man, and it's all about showing skin nowadays.
Yeah, I do think that Harley will fuck Deadshot in this film. That actually was a thing before. So, and it did turn into this kind of conflict between Joker and Deadshot in some stories. I think I'm going to hate this Joker no matter what. I'm not really blaming Jared Leto for this. I think he did what he could with the material that he was given, but the character design is bad.
Now the real question is, are they trying too hard to resurrect the Christopher Nolan Joker? That's my worry.
No, I don't think they are. Because this Joker, this Jared Leto Joker feels more like he's in the business of being a crime lord. He's got the gold rings, he's got the necklace. He looks like he's definitely in it for the riches. The Nolan Joker.
Heath Ledger is the person I was looking for.
Is pure anarchist.
That's very true.
Yes, like pure meth addicted anarchist.
I just, from the previews I've seen, I see like them trying, and I hate movies that do this. It doesn't feel natural. It feels like everything is so forced. Like they try and force our emotions on these characters that just don't have any depth. And that's what I worry about. Joker, I think the Christopher Nolan Joker, he didn't have any depth, but that didn't stop you. But he wasn't forced on you.
Yeah.
The movie didn't care whether you liked him or not. He was going to be there no matter what.
He had depth. You just weren't allowed to see it.
That's very true.
Yes.
Very true.
So it's like he lied every time he talked about how he got his scars. And so it's like you understand, like something happened to him. Mm-hmm. Something really fucked up happened to this guy.
And I heard a theory that this Joker in Suicide Squad is actually Jason Todd.
Apparently that was debunked. I wanted that to be true.
But how perfect would that be just to say it's debunked, and it's like George R. R. Martin style, oh, no, it's not true at all. Then it totally turns out, oh, well, yeah, you guys were right.
Yeah. Maybe Martin should have written this story so that way we could actually have like an R-rated Suicide Squad film. Like people actually dying, and maybe there's some gore in it too.
People like confetti blow out of them when people get shot. They're walking around with guns. Like,
oh my God, yes.
What do you think guns do to people?
No, Mr. J, you said you wanted him dead, so you have to do it yourself.
Have you ever seen that, what is it? College Humor, the College Humor Batman?
Oh, yeah.
This man is dead?
I know. Helicopter.
He's sleeping. Like, what do you think happens when you throw a batarang and it hits somebody? They die. Or, like, my favorite was me and Julian were watching The Winter Soldier. And all the people, it was Winter Soldier, I think. Or no, wait, what was it? Maybe it was it was Winter Soldier. When Captain America just goes fucking ham on everybody and starts killing people. Just like hitting them. Like, what do you think happens when you throw a vibranium shield and you hit someone in the face? Do you think they're going to be okay after that? Or he's like throwing grenades and stuff at people? I'm like, those people are dead.
It's okay, Steve. I don't have any bruises.
Oh, because I'm dead. I'm dead, Steve. Thanks, Captain America. Or he beats all those people up in the elevator. Those people aren't going to wake up.
No,
that's the deal. Like, Captain America he's racking up a body count, man.
Okay, I think readers need to stop giving a shit if a superhero kills somebody. Because let's face it, they're already criminals right now just by being vigilantes.
What do you think? Like, do you think that it's so hard for me because in a comic book, it's supposed to be like a fantastic thing where, criminals get exactly what they deserve and you can just put them in jail and they're gonna what do you think is going to happen? Can you just lock Hydra up? No, you kill those people. Like, imagine what the life insurance policy on a SHIELD agent or a Hydra agent is. There's an animated series, Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and I watch it with my son, and I like to joke about just how many SHIELD agents died in that show.
Yeah,
just thousands
towards the
thousands.
End of it. Yeah,
it's horrible. You're like, those poor people. So,
you ever heard of the Shadow?
No.
So, Batman. As much as everyone loves Batman, I love Batman myself. He is the product of plagiarism, blatant plagiarism. If we did not have the Shadow, we would not have Batman.
Batman, the first one was like Detective Comics back in like what year? He was like in a detective's comic.
It was in the 1940s at least. But the Shadow dominated books, comics, radio, eventually television, everything. He was the big shit back then. And the Shadow was it's like Batman with a fedora on.
Oh man!
But it's actually really cool. And the Shadow was not afraid of killing people. In fact, he was actually like an angel of vengeance,
Punisher style, man.
Absolutely Punisher style. Like in the radio series, they had to make it so that he didn't really kill anyone directly, but it was like he was the cause of their deaths.
He was an accomplice.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, my biggest complaint about Daredevil was, like, he's just so good. Like, bad people sometimes just need to die.
Yeah.
It's just the deal, man.
Well, the thing is, I mean, Daredevil is also a devout Catholic.
Yes, he is.
So that's going to prevent him from killing people. Just saying. Just saying. So, there's a couple topics I wanted to get into related to metal. A couple stories that have been coming around recently. I found these articles off of Metal Injection. I don't like going to them for my metal news, but they update when I need them to, except during the weekends. So the first subject I wanted to get into is apparently Kerry King saying that Tom Aray's future in Slayer is not clear. Now, this takes a quote from Kerry King's interviews, and Tom's been talking about how, I've been doing this for over 35 years. At some point here pretty soon, I'm going to have to hang in the towel and just spend time with my family. So Kerry says, he's very unclear. That's just how he is. I don't know if he likes holding his cards in his pocket or what. I mean, I don't have an answer. I'm holding off a lot of things I want to do at home just because I don't know if I'm going to be working in 2 years. I'm going to be working, hopefully, in Slayer. Yeah, dude, what else am I going to do? I came out of high school and fucking went on tour. And this led to the question of if Tom's out, is Slayer done? Kerry said, not for me, especially on such a good record. So, swear to God. Swear to God. This is muted, right? No, it wasn't muted. That's my fault.
Oh.
Well, fuck. So.
You're fired.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
Who is filling in when they're on tour for Jeff Hanneman?
Gary Holt. Gary Holt is the new member of Slayer since Hanneman died. Okay.
So, I mean, I guess the real question you have to ask is, at what point when you cut members out, does it stop being Slayer and start being someone else? Slayer has been around for 40 years, or close to it. So, that's kind of like...
That's a legit question for any band.
Yeah. At what point does it stop being Slayer? I think the big one, I mean... Is Dave Lombardo still a drummer for Slayer, or is he out? I think he's been out for a while, hasn't he?
Dave Lombardo said, "Hey, I'm not getting paid as much as I should be," and Kerry is like, "Fuck you, get out of here."
So basically, if Tom Araya leaves, it's Kerry King.
Yes. Now,
so I bet you know what I have to say though. Whenever I think of Slayer, the first person that comes to mind is Kerry King.
Yes, it is for me too. So
I think as long as they're playing Slayer music and at least one member, now if Tom Araya said, "I don't want you guys to go on tour without me," then I have a problem calling them Slayer still.
Mm-hmm.
But if Tom Araya is like, "Oh well, I just don't want to do it, guys. Someone else can fill in for me," then you keep going as Slayer, keep putting out badass records until you're like. Lars Ulrich playing, with Oxygen, please keep doing that because then that gives me hope that someday I'm going to be able to see Slayer live.
How is Lars not playing with Oxygen yet?
He is. Haven't you seen S&M?
Oh, really?
Yeah, watch the video, watch the movie S&M. He's literally playing he has like an Oxygen mask on.
Oh, Jesus. That's sad. Okay. Yeah, the thing is, like, I think if Tom leaves and, like, he's in good, if he's, in good ties with the band And he's not going to be like, well, I want these royalties as long as you're playing. And Carey's like, no, fuck you.
Well, I mean, he gets royalties because he probably helped.
Right.
I mean, who wrote the lyrics is the real question. You know, so I assume that if he's singing them, he wrote a good chunk of them. Hopefully.
Most of the lyrics are done by either Carey King or Jeff Hanneman.
Wow.
Yeah, Tom has been very hands-off with the lyric writing. He has done lyrics like Bloodline.
Okay.
But Tom is also a Catholic. So
that makes it a little hard to sing about, you know, altar of sacrifice and angel of death and, you know, haunting the chapel and
I know.
basically devil worshipping things. So that's understandable.
Yeah. Tom's pretty much just said, you know what, I'm able to set aside my feelings towards the subject matter, and like I enjoy the music.
That's interesting. I did not know that about Tom Araya.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Carey is all like, religion's stupid. But like Jeff Hanneman wrote the majority of Diabolus and Musica. In fact, most of the music that you love best from Slayer was written by Jeff Hanneman.
Very nice.
So
I mean, like Seasons in the Abyss is hands down my favorite album, followed closely, by Rain and Blood. But I can listen to Seasons in the Abyss all the way through and not want to skip a track at any point.
That's the way I am with South of Heaven.
South of Heaven is super good too.
My favorite.
South of Heaven is so good.
Yeah. So if Tom leaves and Carey decides to keep going on with it, like, what do you expect Carey to do? Like, he understands that if he keeps the name Slayer, people will go to the shows. If he decides to do another project, not as many people are going to know about it. He's not going to get the same kind of audience.
The reality that we live in today is we have all these badass bands from the 80s that are filled with a bunch of old ass fogies. So they're gonna drop off. And we're at the exposition of old school, metal.
Yeah.
We're at the very end of it. We are going to see, our generation is going to see the death of Ozzy. We already saw the death of Ronnie James Dio. We're going to see the death of, Dave Mustaine. We're going to see the death of, all these super influential, like old school metal guys. That's going to be us. We're going to be like in the twilight of the old school metal. So, and we're seeing that with, Jeff Hanneman dying, Dio dying.
Yeah.
Well, look at it started with Dime,
Well, Dime was just murdered. That wasn't really.
That's true. But it's true, I guess. So
we're gonna watch Phil die at some point.
Who cares?
Did I tell you that I've met Phil Anselmo?
I'm sorry.
He was one of the nicest guys I ever met in metal.
Really?
Yes, and then this shit happens on January with the whole white power bullshit.
He looks like he would be a super douche.
He was super nice.
Wow.
Yeah. He hugged me as if he's known me for years.
That's creepy. That's creepy. That is a little strange.
Hey, Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil, I think you're holding on a little too tightly.
He's like, don't. Shh. It's gonna be okay.
Uncle Phil, I don't think Mom wants me to see you anymore.
Old Uncle Phil.
Old racist Uncle Phil.
Old racist Uncle Phil. But going back, listen to the Great Southern Trendkill.
Yeah.
You can tell that he is, even as far back as Cowboys from Hell, you can really tell. But that's the, honestly, that's the old Texas, that's the old Texas, Cowboys coming out in him, that.
Tell what, racism or?
Yeah. And I don't think that, Vinnie Paul or Dime or Rex Brown, I don't know though. Like they haven't really been in the limelight, like Phil was, after, Dime dying. Getting murdered, I guess I should say. He was kind of in the limelight for a while because, a lot of people blamed him, and all that stuff. So he was in the limelight. So unfortunately, you're in the limelight long enough, people are going to find something that you said, or did that they're not going to like, and they're going to try and use that against you. So I don't feel sorry for him because he's a pretty big scumbag. So
yeah. So the second thing I wanted to get into was related to Ozzy Osbourne and his marriage. So you might remember recently Ozzy and Sharon being upset with each other because Ozzy cheated on her with a mistress for a long time. Apparently, it was the person that did his hair. So Ozzy was kicked out for a while of his house, and then he eventually came back in like a depressed dog. And Sharon was saying, "I don't know if I can trust him anymore," and that's how she talks.
It is exactly how she talks.
Yes. So apparently, Ozzy is saying that he has sex addiction, which I guess is a thing.
I think that sex addiction has a direct link to having an X and a Y chromosome. I mean, so imagine. Let's put yourself in Ozzy's shoes.
Yeah.
You are possibly the most influential old school metal guy.
Yeah.
Ever. You know, if he wasn't having an affair, I would be concerned. You know, I know that, you know, and he's crippled with drug addiction. He's crippled with alcoholism. You know,
how is he not dead yet?
Well, actually, they're doing studies on those old guys like, you know, Tony Iommi and Ozzy and all these guys that just have filled their veins full of the most amount of heroin and cocaine that you can imagine, and drank themselves into stupor on more times than, you know, anyone can imagine. And they're still trying to figure out how the hell these guys are still kicking.
Like Keith Richards has got to have some sort of cure in his blood.
Absolutely. So they're, you know, but let's look at it realistically. You look at guys like Gene Simmons who talk about how they've slept with, you know, thousands of women, and you look at that's what rock stars do. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. If you're a rock star and you're married, like, you know, there are some that you know that do it, but you know, Ozzy was in the heyday of old school metal, you know, and he started off so young, you know, it was so. I'm surprised that he stayed married as long as he did.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, Sharon's the manager for him. Like, if Sharon wasn't around, he wouldn't know what the fuck to do.
It's very true. So, this is a non-issue. It's totally a non-issue. So what? He had a mistress. He's the Prince of Darkness. If he wants a mistress, give the man a mistress. Like, seriously, that's what. It's so. For people to, you know, question his life, you know, his personal life, being the Prince of Darkness, it's just disingenuous, I think.
Yeah, if Sharon and Ozzy were in some sort of, like, open relationship deal, then I think they would be all right.
That's true. But it isn't like... What's crazy to me is, how did Sharon Osbourne not know that he was sleeping with a bunch of women?
Yeah.
There's no way. I think it's a publicity, you know, and a lot of, you know, and Ozzy sold out to the media long ago with the Osbournes and, you know, and bringing all this stuff into his life. So I kind of feel like this is a desperate attempt for, you know, Sharon Osbourne and Ozzy to be, you know, relevant again. Mm-hmm. But which, I mean, Black Sabbath is touring still, aren't they? Or are they done with that tour?
I don't know. I thought they were supposed to be done.
I thought they were too, but, you know... Like, Ozzy was singing with Black Sabbath up until at least a year ago, so it's not like he's not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you try and, you know, do stuff like this, it kind of discredits you, I think, because as a metalhead, I'm happy that he was having mistresses. You know, like, that makes me like, you go, Ozzy, you know, like, the Prince of Darkness, you know. So it's just not a big deal to me. And I don't think, if I had to guess... and speak for a lot of, you know, metalheads, it's not a huge deal. Is it a huge deal to you?
No, it's not. For me, I find it interesting, but I don't really listen to Ozzy much anymore than I used to.
I just rocked War Pigs the other day while doing some crafting for my medieval combat.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between like Ozzy and even the Ozzy era Black Sabbath.
You know what? True dat.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't find myself listening to like solo Ozzy very much, but rocking Black Sabbath, like Ozzy era Black Sabbath, is so satisfying.
It sounds like blues from hell. It's
you know what? That is a good term for it. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I mean, like, anything that I've heard from, like, the first two Black Sabbath albums was still deeper and darker than anything I've heard from the solo albums from Ozzy.
That's very true. The solo albums from Ozzy were I feel like there's a lot of whining.
It feels poppy.
It is. That was that was approaching the time when people got into the TV and the media got into Ozzy's life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know. A lot of it feels like the reason people got pissed off over Metallica's The Black Album. And by the way, I will ask, do you think Metallica sounds tired when they play?
Those guys are as old as my dad.
Mm-hmm.
If I was drinking and doing drugs and playing thrash metal, I would be tired, and I'm only 28 years old.
Yeah.
So do they sound tired? I think James Hetfield has ran out of material and he's just putting random words together.
Yeah.
For the last 3 albums. Listen to them. They don't make any sense. You're like, James Hetfield, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean, last time I saw Metallica in concert was back in 2008.
Was that for the new Death Magnetic, or was that for...
It was for Death Magnetic. And if I watch any of their recent Blu-ray concerts, James sounds tired and winded.
He's an old man. Keep that in mind.
I know.
He is old as our dads.
I know.
Could your dad go up there and do that?
Meanwhile, Dave Mustaine keeps cranking out album after album, going
What's
on
crazy
stage.
is Dave Mustaine looks the same as he did when he left Metallica.
Does he fucking age?
He looks the same. I saw a picture of him standing next to Johan Hegg for their tour now, and he looks no older than he did when he left Metallica.
Yeah.
Or back, Symphony of Destruction. He looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah, and Dave has also had numerous occasions of heroin addiction. I mean, he lost he lost the ability to use one of his arms for a long time.
I heard about that,
which made him stop Megadeth for a long time. But eventually, he was able to get a little bit of surgery, and then he was able to recover from that.
Or now, hear me out here. He's a necromancer.
That goes against Christianity, though.
Think about it. You don't just regain the use of an arm without some sort of dark magics.
We are talking. We are talking about a guy who said, "Hey, Rotting Christ, I don't want to play in the same concert as you guys because you're Rotting Christ and I'm a Christian now."
I don't believe that for 1 second. Amon Amarth has literally a song about killing Christians.
Yeah.
So, and he's touring with him right now.
But Dave doesn't have... Well, this was like way back when Dave first started to really get into Christianity.
It's all cover, man. That's when he started his necromantic acts. If you can hear me, Dave Mustaine, I'm fucking on to you.
Oh, God.
I know it. I know what's going on. I see it.
So let's talk about where metal has been evolving recently. Do you have any thoughts on the direction metal has been going and the way the current bands have, and the way the new bands have been coming up recently?
I have to admit, I wouldn't call myself a hipster. I'm more like an old school dude. Mm-hmm. I cannot stand, oh my God, the new hardcore metal scene. The new oh jeez, I don't understand it. Well, then the bands My Chemical Romance is now coming out with a new album or something like that. They made a teaser video or something.
Oh Christ, they're still around. People still listen to them.
It's all coming back now. Makeup is cool again. Back when it was in the late 2000s, or the early 2000s, and so I think we're seeing we're seeing a split where it happened in the 90s with glam metal, mm-hmm. where metal went, underground, super underground.
Yeah.
Once the glam metal scene and the LA scene came about, I think we're seeing that again with bands, these new garbage hipster bands, coming out. I work with a guy who is really into that stuff, and he lists off these bands. I'm like, what in the fuck is happening?
So, are you thinking of stuff like Degent and metalcore, deathcore, that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Because I can totally agree that I'm also pretty annoyed with it as much as you probably are. I think Degent, a lot of it can really sound the same. Deathcore tends to use a lot of the same breakdowns, or the same formula for the breakdowns.
I find that it's even like these bands that are coming out, these like underground bands. They have they're and I guess I don't know. I don't like it, but I can't get down on anybody for liking it.
Right.
I don't know why they like it, but they like it for some reason. And if people are listening to metal, maybe, just maybe, they'll listen to some, like screamo, like, grindcore band, and then on their Pandora or Spotify, and something old school like, some old school Black Sabbath or, song will come on that, spawned all this, or even go back. You know what my first metal band I listened to was?
What?
Pantera. That was my gateway drug.
Nice.
For metal. I listened to Pantera and I was like, what is this? I was probably like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And I was like, what in the hell is this? And then that just opened the floodgates to the deep, dark underworld that is, every type of metal.
Okay, so you're going to think this is kind of funny, but for me, my first concert was the Newsboys back when I was a little tyke.
I don't even know what the Newsboys is.
So the Newsboys is a Christian Australian band that started in the late 80s, and in the 90s they started to blow up a little bit more. And they never made like metal, but they made some harder stuff here and there where it was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And for me being like 8 years old, and living under a Christian household,
I remember the wee lad that you were, the freshly shaven baby face wee lad that you were.
Oh.
That was back when myself was baby face and clean shaven. We're not. That's the dark times. The dark times.
way back when I would go with Brandy to the Methodist church. Now, so I also found, like, way back then, like, that was my parents' exposure for me for music, and I found other bands through them, like Guardian and Petra, that also had some heavier stuff in it. Guardian, like, was like a mixture of glam with Christian. It was weird.
So it was basically the embodiment of everything that I hate in the world.
Yeah, probably. And then there's White Cross, which I swear to God is a Rat ripoff.
That's White Cross sounds like a super fucking badass Norwegian like death metal band,
or some sort of like white supremacist band. But
maybe hold on, now let's just the super like hardcore Norwegian death metal band and the white supremacist band don't necessarily, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Stormfront has a pretty decent collection of metal we can get into, but. So like that was like how I discovered, okay, heavier stuff exists. And then I think it was in middle school when I discovered other stuff like Korn and Disturbed and Rob Zombie. Like, that was like my first like taste into something heavier than the Christian stuff that I listened to back then. And then I was able to explore a little bit more. Like, I started hearing Metallica for the first time. And so eventually came to a point where I would listen to Metallica. My mother hated it. My father didn't give a shit. I listened to Pantera. My mother hated it. Father didn't give a shit. Pink Floyd, same thing. Led Zeppelin. My mother hated it. My father gave it to me.
To this day, every time I hear a Led Zeppelin song, my wee lad of 6 years old, I tell him, listen, son, this is the greatest rock and roll band that has ever graced the face of this earth. I will tell you a story about a young lad of 11 named Raven, that his first concert was Linkin Park at Head PE at the Five Seasons Center.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
yep.
boy.
That was an interesting thing, because that was the first concert I had ever been to. Went with a good friend of mine in middle school, and that was the defining moment that realized that rock and roll and metal is a way of life.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started to listen to other bands, like Pantera. I started getting into more of that scene, and then it opened the floodgates to, bands like Chimera and Cannibal Corpse and, Slayer, all that stuff. It was so eye-opening to see that much enthusiasm can be put into something, so loud.
Yeah, see, back then, when we were at those ages, the way that we viewed music was more of a product of the time.
Very true.
And influenced by our peers. So what did you think of Linkin Park back then, and then what do you think of them right now?
I have to say, Hybrid Theory is one of the best put together albums I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
I like electronic. I love metal electronic fused together and that's probably because of the early influences of the Hybrid Theory, Linkin Park. So to this day, I still like a really cool industrial bands that put hardcore riffs and sick ass drum beats to electronic music. It's just so. It just gets you so pumped, and so I think the direction of Linkin Park is very poppy, but whenever you get so big, you got to keep up your huge lifestyle, so you don't put out music that is necessarily good. You put out music that makes money.
Yeah. I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with Linkin Park. Back when I first discovered them and started listening to them, I thought they were the shit.
I was, like I said, Hybrid Theory is the shit. Linkin Park nowadays, well, that's just like Green Day. I mean, Green Day was kick ass. They were like, this awesome punk band that, all the angst and, things that came along with it.
They just fucking blew up out of nowhere.
They sure did.
Yeah.
And then, what the hell happened? I think they got on MTV, and then all of a sudden, I don't even know. And now, what are they doing now? They came around for 5 years, made an album that was garbage, and now they went back to garbage to live in the garbage.
I don't even know if they're still active anymore.
I don't think they are.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think they are.
Oh, I remember Billy Joel was throwing some bitch fit at some award show because he wasn't able to play for as long as they wanted.
Yeah. And he went back into rehab.
Good job, Billy.
Good job, Billy.
You done good, kid.
You done good.
So I think we're going to conclude this first episode of the podcast. So, Raven, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. I had a blast.
Yes, I'm looking forward to doing more episodes with you.
Absolutely.
All right. If you have any questions, comments, things you want to hear from the podcast, email me at thearrogantmetalhead@gmail.com. And until next time, take care.